Have you ever really tuned into the hidden lifeblood of your own community?
Mm.
I'm talking about the streams and creeks, flowing right under your nose, quietly shaping the landscape and, well, impacting daily life. What stories do they tell?
It's so easy to overlook them, isn't it?
Mm.
These vital arteries.
Yeah.
But they truly are the kind of like the circulatory system of our environment, constantly flowing, constantly adapting.
Absolutely. And today we're embarking on, let's call it an environmental detective story. Our patient is the Quantico Creek watershed in Prince William County, Virginia.
Okay.
We're going to examine its history, assess its current health through a really fascinating 2011 report, reveal the diagnosis of what's truly ailing it, and then finally unveil the ambitious treatment plan to bring this vital waterway back to health.
Right. Our mission here is really to pull out the most important insights from this pretty detailed study.
Mm-hmm.
We want to help you quickly understand the complex interplay of, history, geology, human activity, and natural processes that define a watershed like this.
You'll get a real shortcut to being well-informed, complete with some surprising facts and really practical insights into environmental management. Now, this deep dive focuses on a pretty significant area.
Yeah, it's big.
We're talking about 25,600 acres, or roughly 40 square miles, and it includes 21 smaller drainage basins.
Right. And while the full study looked at all of those, our conversation today will highlight findings from, I think it's 6 particularly representative basins.
6 key ones, okay.
So let's maybe set the scene, the lay of the land. Quantico Creek watershed is nestled there in Prince William County, Virginia.
Uh-huh.
It flows generally southeast, starting its journey up near Aden Road and Joplin Road, and then winds its way down to the Potomac River, just north of the town of Quantico.
And it's not just empty land, right? It sweeps through incorporated towns like Dumfries and Quantico,
Correct.
but also covers large portions of Prince William Forest National Park and even parts of the Marine Corps base Quantico. It's a real patchwork.
It really is.
Mhm.
The creek's headwaters, they start around 430 feet above sea level, gradually descending to sea level as it reaches the Potomac.
Okay.
That elevation change is important, sure, but here's where it gets fundamentally interesting, geologically speaking. The watershed sits directly on this unique geological divide known as the Quantico syncline,
Quantico Syncline.
commonly called the fall line.
Ah, the fall line. Okay, I've heard of that. That sounds like a crucial dividing line. What happens to the landscape and the water once you cross over?
It's like stepping into a different geological world, honestly. To the west, you're in what's called the Piedmont province.
Right.
Here, the landscape is shaped by harder, more resistant metamorphic rocks. This means steeper hills and soils that are porous, somewhat acidic, low in nutrients, and have these highly erodible sandy topsoils. But then underneath, you get less erodible clayey subsoils.
Okay, harder rocks, steeper hills, erodible topsoil, and then heading east across the line.
Once you cross that fall line eastward, you enter the coastal plain province.
Okay.
Totally different. Here, you find softer, unconsolidated sands, silts, and clays.
So much looser stuff.
Exactly. The result is less dramatic topography, sort of flatter, and much sandier, often highly erodible soils.
Wow.
So why does this all matter? Well, this geological transition directly dictates erosion patterns, how water flows through the ground and over it, and even the specific types of restoration methods and materials that are actually going to work.
And so it impacts everything. Project costs, timelines.
Everything, yeah.
And humans have definitely left their mark on this landscape over time. Before European settlement, this area was just a vast canopy of oak, hickory, chestnut forests.
Classic eastern forest.
Then, early 1700s, Dumfries gets chartered, becomes this booming port town. But this isn't just like a historical footnote, is it? It feels like a prophecy for modern development.
It really does. Because that extensive land clearing back then for farming and settlement led to such massive soil erosion
Right.
and sediment washing into the creek that it eventually rendered the port inaccessible to commercial vessels. Just
Yeah.
choked it.
Inaccessible. Just from land clearing. Wow. What lessons from that 18th century mistake are still maybe unlearned today?
That historical blunder, it absolutely echoes in our modern challenges, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Later, early 1900s, development exploded around Quantico and Dumfries, and that brought direct alterations to Quantico Creek itself. Notably, the construction of a sewage treatment facility involved physically relocating and channelizing the lower part of the creek,
They moved the creek.
moved it, straightened it, and this likely worsened bank erosion through something we call channel incision.
Okay, channel incision, if I'm picturing this right, it means the stream is essentially digging itself deeper into the ground, almost like carving a trench. What does that do to the
That's
banks?
exactly it. Imagine the stream literally carving a deeper, narrower bed for itself.
Okay.
This process often leaves behind unstable, near-vertical banks because the stream's trying to regain some kind of stable equilibrium in its new, altered state. It's out of balance.
Right, trying to adjust. Now, turning to current and future pressures on the watershed. Prince William County is Virginia's third most populous jurisdiction,
Growing fast.
with nearly 35% population growth since 2000 and another 50% projected over the next 20 years. That's huge. A lot of it driven by proximity to the D.C. metro area.
That proximity is key.
That's a whole lot of new residents. What's the single biggest environmental headache that population boom presents for this watershed?
Oh, it's stormwater runoff,
Yeah.
hands down. While much of the watershed is still protected forest and open land, about 78%, which is good.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Residential, commercial, and industrial uses are really concentrated along that I-95 corridor.
Right, the main artery.
And future zoning plans, they project more low-density suburban residential growth in some of these basins. This impending development, it highlights a really critical point, converting open lands into what we call impervious surfaces, rooftops, concrete, asphalt.
Stuff water can't soak into.
Exactly. It drastically increases the volume and the speed of stormwater runoff, which in turn leads directly to stream erosion. More water, faster water equals more cutting power.
That sounds like a really dire challenge. But, I mean, new development isn't all bad news, is it? We have
Yeah.
modern regulations now.
You're right. There are mitigating factors. Virginia's regulations, like the Prince William County Design and Construction Standards Manual from 2009 and the Northern Virginia BMP Handbook.
VMP's best management practices.
Correct. Best management practices. These are designed specifically to prevent increases in peak flows, even during major storms.
Okay.
They even mandate a 20% reduction for certain large storms for the entire receiving watershed. Plus, modern stormwater ponds, they're designed with long drawdown times 30 to 48 hours, specifically to allow pollutants to settle out before the water's released.
Okay, so some built-in protections.
Steps in the right direction, definitely.
So, given all this history, geology, development pressure, how exactly did they take the stream's pulse? Was it like a doctor's checkup or more like a forensics investigation?
A bit of both, actually. The Rapid Watershed Assessment itself was performed by MacTech Engineering and Consulting, Inc.
Okay.
Now, they faced a limited budget and schedule, so they strategically focused on selected subwatersheds. The idea was to identify major trends and problems that could give them a framework for future management across the whole system.
Makes sense. And it's really incredible that they brought the community into this process. What were some of the maybe surprising or impactful observations residents shared? Did that change things?
Oh, that local knowledge was invaluable, absolutely. 2 public meetings were held back in June 2010.
Okay.
And residents voiced very specific concerns, particularly about siltation, the creek filling up with mud, and even invasive aquatic plant growth down near where Quantico Creek meets the Potomac River.
Things you might not see just walking the banks upstream.
Exactly. These direct observations from the community provided critical insights and definitely informed the study's recommendations. It wasn't just top-down.
That's great.
So to assess stream health rapidly, the study used something called the Rapid Stream Assessment Technique, or RSA.
RSAT. Okay, walk us through how they determined what was wrong. How does RSAT actually work? Like, what are they looking for?
Yeah, the RSA method, it's kind of a blend of visual assessment tools. It evaluates both the physical structure of the stream and the biological life living in it.
Okay.
Think of it as a comprehensive report card for the stream reach. They took observations every 400 to 500 feet along the stream.
Pretty detailed.
Yeah. And what's particularly insightful, I think, is how they weighted the different factors they assessed. It tells you what they considered most critical.
Right. I noticed that. I'm particularly intrigued by the emphasis on certain factors in their scoring system. Can you tell us why some elements were given more weight than others? Like, what was number one?
Absolutely. The RSA used 6 key categories each scored. The most heavily weighted category, given, almost 50% more points than any other, was channel stability.
Channel stability. Okay.
This tells us about the stream's structural integrity, basically, how likely its banks are to collapse or erode away.
Makes sense. Fundamental structure.
Exactly. An excellent score here meant stable banks with dense vegetation, deep root systems holding everything together. A poor score meant less than half the banks were stable, frequently sloughing off, may be made of highly erodible material. Very vulnerable.
Okay, so prioritizing the stream, just holding itself together, what else did they look at?
They also assessed channel scouring or sediment deposition.
Mm-hmm.
This tells you how much sediment the stream is moving around and dropping.
The silting problem residents mentioned.
Precisely. Often a direct result of uncontrolled runoff upstream. A healthy score meant clear water, lots of deep pools. A poor one indicated large, unstable sand deposits, riffles getting buried in sediment.
Hmm.
Then, physical in-stream habitat. This looks at the conditions for aquatic life, things like flow depth, variety of habitats like riffles and pools, and crucially, water temperature.
Okay. And water quality itself.
Yeah, water quality was assessed through indicators like clarity, dissolved solids, any unusual odors. Pretty straightforward.
And what about the surrounding area and the actual living creatures? The bugs and stuff.
Right, two more. Riparian habitat conditions assess the health of the vegetation right alongside the stream, that buffer zone.
The streamside trees and plants.
Exactly. Provides crucial ecological services like filtering runoff, shading the water, providing habitat. A wide, mature forest buffer meant an excellent score.
Okay. And the bugs.
Finally, and perhaps most fascinating, were biological indicators. These are like the stream's own natural report card.
How so?
Well, certain aquatic macroinvertebrates, basically, bugs big enough to see, have limited mobility. They can't just swim away if conditions get bad. So the types and diversity of bugs present tell us a whole lot about the overall water quality over time.
Ah, okay. So certain bugs mean healthy water.
Exactly. A healthy stream would have diverse communities, including sensitive species like mayflies, stoneflies, caddisflies. A struggling, polluted stream might be dominated by pollutant-tolerant species, like midgeflies or certain types of worms and snails. They're the canaries in the coal mine, so to speak.
That's fascinating. Okay, so beyond the natural channels, the study also looked at existing stormwater basins to find opportunities for improvement, right? What did they find there?
Yes, this was another key piece. They evaluated these man-made basins, looking at things like the type of basin. Is it a dry pond, a wet pond, a constructed wetland?
Mm-hmm.
They looked at its internal structures, like inlets and outfalls, its location, the size of the area it drains, even the type of vegetation present. Is it just mowed grass, or are there native wetland plants?
Okay.
What's particularly insightful here, and a bit counterintuitive, is that a low score in this specific assessment meant high potential for beneficial retrofits.
Oh, interesting. So a low score wasn't bad. It just meant there was room for improvement.
Exactly. It clearly identified where the biggest bang for the buck could be achieved in terms of upgrading these older facilities to meet modern standards for water quality treatment and flow control.
All right, so with all that meticulous assessment, the RSAT scores, the basin reviews, the community input, what was the final diagnosis? What's truly ailing the Quantico Creek watershed?
Well, the assessment identified a pretty significant number of problems across the board. 30 distinct open channel issues problems within the stream itself, and 16 issues related to stormwater basin maintenance and operations.
30 open channel problems. Let's dive into those findings because it sounds like you said it's almost like looking at two completely different worlds within the same watershed. You've got a pristine wild area and then its struggling, more urbanized cousins.
That's a perfect way to put it. On one hand, you have Basin 615. This is the South Fork of Quantico Creek, and it largely flows within Prince William Forest Park.
The protected area.
Right. This basin is really the benchmark, a truly excellent example. Its main channel is in nearly pristine condition, showing very little instability or erosion. Its RS8 scores were consistently high. This relatively undisturbed area serves as a critical reference point for what a healthy stream should look like in this region.
Okay, the natural control group, essentially. But then you have the impaired basins,
Mhm.
630, 645, 650, 665, and 690.
Yeah, these are in stark contrast. Streams in these more developed basins showed significant impairments, with consistently low scores in channel stability, scour and deposition, and physical habitat. Generally, this points to rapidly incising, cutting deeper and widening channels. They're unstable.
Can you give an example? Like Basin 630.
Yeah, Basin 630, Dewey's Creek, is a prime example of the effects of this systemic channel, incision and widening. It's directly linked to increased impervious surfaces upstream and the loss of that protective riparian forest along the banks.
So pavement and missing trees.
Pretty much. In Dewey's Creek, you'd find widespread bank erosion, large sand and sediment deposits like a huge sandbar clogging the Possum Point Road culvert,
No.
exposed sewer lines running across the creek bed, even undermined utility poles that look like they were about to topple into the stream.
Yikes.
And yes, they even found clear evidence of illegal dumping concrete rubble, old tires, which were actually creating small dams, impoundments, and making the erosion problems even worse in certain spots.
So it's not just natural processes gone wild, but clear instances where, negligence or illegal actions are actively harming the creek. How did the report address those cases?
It clearly highlighted them, both as specific problems needing remediation, like the junk out, and as symptoms of a larger issue with how development and, frankly, human behavior impacts the watershed. And then there's Basin 665 Swans Creek.
Okay.
This basin revealed some of the absolute most severe issues, particularly in two specific sections, reaches 665I and 665J.
What was happening there?
Here, severe unchecked channel incision, that deep cutting action has led to systemic erosion and something called mass wasting.
Mass wasting. That sounds dramatic. What does that look like on the ground?
It is dramatic. When we talk about mass wasting in this context, imagine entire sections of the stream bank just sloughing off, collapsing into the water.
Like landslides into the creek.
Exactly. In this case, the report describes near vertical, eroded banks standing approximately 12 feet high.
12 feet. That's huge.
It is, posing a significant direct risk to public safety and leading to imminent loss of property for people living nearby. 12 feet. That's almost 2 stories high, just crumbling away.
Wow. I mean, seeing something like that would instantly change your perspective on local water quality and stream health, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. And it raises that really important, broader question for any developing area. How do we balance necessary growth and development with protecting these natural systems that are so vital and clearly so fragile?
That's a huge tangible challenge right there. And it sounds like Basin 650 Middle Little Creek and 690 Lower Little Creek, they face similar issues of instability.
Yes, these basins suffer from systemic channel widening, which is sort of the partner to incision. The channel gets wider as the banks collapse inward.
Okay.
And this is often made worse, interestingly, by golf course maintenance practices that remove those crucial streamside or riparian buffers.
Taking out the trees and shrubs along the edge.
Precisely, which leads to severe bank erosion and sometimes undermined infrastructure like bridges or pathways on the course. In Basin 690, there's also a low head dam on the Medal of Honor golf course that actually impairs sediment transport.
How does that work?
Well, it traps sediment behind it that should naturally move downstream. This can starve downstream reaches of needed gravel and sand and cause sediment to pile up upstream, making upstream erosion potentially worse. It disrupts the natural flow.
So it's clear it's not just the open channels. There are also significant problems with the existing stormwater basins, the man-made ones. You mentioned historically, retention was minimal.
Right. Historically, the focus wasn't really on water quality, just getting rid of floodwater quickly. That led to rapid erosion and flooding downstream. While regulations have certainly improved, many of these older basins, built under previous standards, still fall short of what we'd want today.
What were the most common problems they found in those 24 assessed basins?
One of the biggest issues was a significant lack of internal structure. Things like forebays, which are small settling areas right where water enters.
Okay.
Or berms, which are like low ridges, or just general microtopography, subtle bumps and dips. These internal features are really vital for slowing the water flow down and allowing pollutants like sediment and nutrients to settle out.
So they were just like empty bowls.
Many of them, yeah, essentially. Many basins were also found to be just too small for the size of the drainage area they were supposed to serve, overwhelmed easily. And there was a general lack across the board of native wetland or riparian vegetation within the basins, just mowed turf grass mostly, which significantly hinders their effectiveness in filtering pollutants and providing any habitat value.
Can you give us an example of a common design flaw they found, something concrete?
Certainly. One wet pond, for example, is referred to as FAC 473 in the report.
Okay.
It showed excessive algae growth, just green soup, which clearly indicates eutrophication, basically. The pond is getting overloaded with nutrients, often from lawn fertilizers in the runoff upstream.
Right, feeding the algae.
Exactly. It acts like superfood for algae, leading to these suffocating blooms. This pond also suffered from insufficient storage volume and, crucially, lacked a forebay to capture that initial rush of sediment effectively.
So sediment and nutrients just washed right through.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And many of the dry basins they looked at completely lack any internal structure or vegetation, meaning stormwater just rushed through quickly with very little pollutant attenuation. They really weren't performing their intended function very well at all.
So, okay, after diagnosing all these issues, the unstable channels, the underperforming basins, What's the prescription for a healthier watershed? What were the big recommendations from the report?
The report broke down recommendations into two main categories. First, general sort of watershed-wide strategy.
Big picture stuff.
Right. And then more specific reach-level solutions for individual problem areas, both in the streams and for the basins.
Okay, let's start with the big picture, the general recommendations for the whole watershed. What did they suggest?
Well, one key finding related directly to that community concern about Quantico Bay, residents wanted dredging to restore recreational use, get rid of the mud.
Makes sense from their perspective.
Totally. But the report clearly stated that dredging would only provide temporary relief unless the source of the problem, that upstream sediment generation from eroding banks, was first reduced by implementing the open channel recommendations.
So fix the erosion first, then maybe dredge. Treat the cause, not just the symptom.
Exactly. You have to stem the flow of sediment at its source.
That makes perfect sense. And invasive vegetation, that seems like a constant battle everywhere. What did they recommend?
It's pervasive.
Yeah.
They recommended a multifaceted approach.
Hmm.
Definitely educating property owners on identifying native versus invasive plants, things like invasive wisteria, privet, honeysuckle.
Stuff people might even plant thinking it's pretty.
Right. Discouraging their sale in local nurseries is another piece. And then implementing actual removal programs, often leveraging volunteer, help to tackle infestations on public lands or assist private owners.
Community involvement again. Riparian management also sounds critical, based on what you said about buffers.
Absolutely essential. Implementing effective water resource protection buffers in local zoning and building rules, ideally based on site-specific factors like topography and land use, is key. They also recommended incentives for property owners to improve the quality of existing buffers by planting native vegetation, plus active reforestation programs on public or degraded lands, and of course more public education about why these buffers matter so much.
And education generally seems like a running theme here for long-term success.
Indeed. Promoting watershed stewardship through things like clear signage near streams, educational materials, brochures, emails, maybe stuff on community access TV, watershed awareness programs like town hall meetings or guided watershed walks with landowners, and really encouraging and supporting volunteer watershed monitoring or cleanup groups. It all builds investment.
And what about enforcement? Are the existing rules for, say, construction sites enough or being followed?
That's a critical point. The report recommends increasing staff capacity for inspection and enforcement of erosion and sediment control measures on development sites.
They need more inspectors.
Essentially, yeah. Current resources were stretched thin, meaning potential violations might slip through. And prevention, as the report notes, is always more cost-effective than going back later to fix a major erosion problem caused by poor site management.
Makes sense.
They also recommended a specific program, a dry weather inspection program.
Dry weather, why then?
Typically done in late summer, like August, after a prolonged dry spell. You walk the streams looking for flowing pipes or ditches that shouldn't be flowing when it hasn't rained.
Looking for illegal discharges.
Exactly. Things like misconnected washing machines, swimming pool drainage, failing septic systems. These illicit discharges can dump a lot of pollutants directly into the creek and significantly impact water quality, especially when flows are naturally low.
Sneaky sources of pollution. Okay, so preventing new problems and fixing old ones. I see the logic.
Precisely. And one more key general recommendation is to strongly encourage, maybe even incentivize new developments to adopt advanced on-site stormwater capture and storage measures. Think techniques often required for green building certifications like LEED.
Like rain gardens, permeable pavement.
Stuff like that, yeah. Capturing rainfall right where it lands. This is seen as a critical step to prevent future impacts as the area continues to grow, reduce downstream flooding and erosion problems, and actually maintain property values.
Yeah.
It's a proactive measure that, importantly, the report suggests should be prioritized before embarking on expensive downstream stream restoration projects. Build it right the first time.
Okay, that covers the big picture. Now, moving to the open channel recommendations, these are the specific fixes for those eroding stream reaches, focusing on improving stability and protecting property.
Right. The projects fall into several categories. Infrastructure repair, like fixing exposed sewer lines, debris removal, getting that dumped concrete out, major channel restoration, smaller channel enhancement, riparian buffer restoration, and also preservation or just monitoring for the healthier reaches.
And for the actual channel restoration, what kind of techniques did they propose? Is it all just dumping rock?
No, definitely not. They proposed a whole toolkit of solutions, really tailored to the specific level of stress and erosion at each site. It ranges from softer, more natural approaches,
Like what?
like using specialized erosion control fabrics combined with native plantings, fabric and plant techniques for lower stress areas. For moderate stress, maybe live fascines or brush mattresses, which use bundles of live woody cuttings laid along the bank to root and stabilize it.
Okay. More bioengineering.
Exactly.
Okay.
Then for higher stress areas like the outside bends of meanders, where erosion is strongest, they might recommend rock toe with joint planting, where a base of rock provides immediate stability, but live plants are installed within the rock to provide long-term rooting and habitat.
So combining hard armor with living material.
Right. And for very high stress areas with steep failing banks, they even mention techniques like gravel or earth wraps, which use geotextile fabric to encapsulate layers of fill material to rebuild the bank securely.
Sounds complex. They also mentioned in-stream structures, things built right in the channel.
Yes, these are designed to control the water's flow and the stream's gradient, or slope.
Like what kind of structures?
Things like stilling basins, which are basically pools lined with rock built at the outlets of culverts or storm drain pipes to dissipate the energy of the water rushing out, preventing scours right there.
Okay, slowing the water down.
Or rock riffles. These are like carefully constructed rapids made of large cobbles or small boulders trenched into the stream. They control bed scouring, prevent the stream from cutting deeper, and help stabilize the overall grade or slope of the stream.
Got it.
And another common one is wing deflectors. These are often triangular rock structures built out from one bank to gently redirect the main flow away from an eroding bank, maybe push it towards the center of the channel. Useful near culverts where deposition is a problem, and they can also create deeper pools, enhancing aquatic habitat.
Can you give us a concrete example of a proposed open channel restoration? Where did they recommend the most significant, maybe complex work?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's go back to Basin 665, Swans Creek, specifically those really bad reaches 665I and 665J, where severe channel incision created those terrifying 12-foot high eroded banks we talked about.
Yeah, mass wasting zone.
Right. The recommendation there is to restore approximately 1,100 to 1,250 feet of stream through that whole section. This involves extensive bank stabilization, likely using that fabric and plant bank treatment with rock toe approach because the stress is high, and crucially, installing up to 3 permanent rock riffles within that reach to control the grade and prevent the channel from re-incising in the future. It's a massive undertaking, requiring significant earthwork and construction access, but deemed critical for protecting public safety and preventing further property loss.
Wow. A major intervention. Okay, beyond the streams themselves, what about retrofitting those existing stormwater basins? What kind of improvements did they suggest there to make them work better?
Right, those 16 basins identified as having high retrofit potential could be significantly improved. The goal is to increase their storage capacity, improve their water quality treatment function, and maybe even provide some ecological habitat.
So making them do more than just hold water briefly.
Exactly. Proposed improvements include things like adding forebays, those small settling pools at the inflow points to capture silt and debris before it gets into the main pond area.
Okay.
Constructing internal berms or adding microtopography within the basin to lengthen the flow path of the stormwater. This increases the residency time, basically, giving the water more time to slow down and allow pollutants like fine sediment and nutrients to settle out.
Making the water take a longer, slower path.
Precisely. They also suggested retrofitting simple single-stage outlets, like just a pipe or a basic weir with more sophisticated multi-stage risers. These structures allow for better control of outflows during different sizes of storm events, helping to mimic natural hydrology better.
More refined flow control.
Yes. And finally, a big one. Revegetating the basins, particularly around the edges and in wetter areas, with native wetland and riparian species. Moving away from just mowed grass. This enhances filtration, pollutant uptake by plants, and provides valuable wildlife habitat.
That sounds like a much more holistic approach to making them truly effective, ecologically beneficial facilities. Can you give us a compelling example of a proposed basin retrofit? Maybe that pond with the algae problem?
Certainly. For that wet pond we mentioned earlier, FAC 473, the one suffering from excessive algae blooms and insufficient storage.
Yeah, the green soup pond.
Right. The recommendation there is really comprehensive. It involves potentially raising the height of the surrounding embankment to increase storage volume, retrofitting the existing outfall structure with a modern multi-stage riser for better flow control, adding a forebay at the inflow point to trap incoming sediment, constructing internal berms within the pond to lengthen the flow path and promote settling, and finally, scraping out excess accumulated sediment and then revegetating the entire basin slopes and shallow water benches with appropriate native wetland species.
Wow, that's a complete makeover.
It really is. It's a textbook example of how to take an old, underperforming basin and transform it into a fully functional and ecologically beneficial stormwater treatment system.
This all sounds like a monumental task, though. Fixing miles of streams, retrofitting dozens of basins, it must come with a significant price tag. What's the bottom line in terms of prioritization and cost? How did they decide what to fix first?
That's a crucial piece. The report meticulously assigned priorities to the open channel projects, the stream fixes. Priority 1 projects were those addressing immediate threats to public health, safety, property, or critical infrastructure. These typically involved accelerated erosion, active mass wasting, like in Basin 665, or severe flooding issues.
The emergencies, basically.
Exactly. These should be repaired as soon as possible, the report says, due to the risk of rapidly increasing costs or significant property loss if left unaddressed. Examples include those major stream restorations we discussed, like the long 4,300-foot stretch in Reach 630A, and those severe incision problems in Reaches 665A and 665J.
Got it. Priority 1 is urgent. What about the other priorities?
Priority 2 projects tackle more systemic issues, things like generally unstable channel conditions, that ongoing incision or widening, which contribute significantly to downstream sedimentation and impact wider watershed conditions. They're important for overall health, but maybe not an immediate crisis like Priority 1. These should be addressed after Priority 1 projects, as funding allows.
Okay, systemic but less urgent.
Priority 3 projects are more localized problems, often with very specific local causes. Things like erosion caused by poorly managed overbank drainage from a parking lot, or localized bank failure due to removal of a small section of riparian corridor, or problems caused by debris dumping, easier to isolate and fix, usually. And finally, Priority 4 wasn't really about fixing problems, but rather preservation. These are opportunities to protect the existing higher-quality stream reaches, like those in Basin 615, that still have wide, healthy riparian buffers. They serve as vital reference points for restoration efforts elsewhere and act as buffers against the effects of degradation in other parts of the watershed. Protect what's still good.
That makes sense. Protect the healthy areas, too. And the stormwater basin retrofits, they were prioritized differently.
Yes, those projects were prioritized primarily based on their individual assessment scores. Remember, lower scores meant higher potential for beneficial retrofits. They can also generally be implemented more independently, as fixing one basin is less likely to have major downstream consequences compared to, say, altering the grade of a major stream channel. So they offer flexibility in implementation.
Okay, so the big question. What's the grand total for all these proposed improvements? What's the estimated cost of achieving a healthier Quantico Creek watershed according to this 2011 report?
The total estimated cost, back in 2011 dollars, mind you, for all proposed improvements was substantial. Just over $15.7 million.
$15.7 million. Wow. How does that break down?
The lion's share was for the open channel work. The 30 proposed open channel recommendations had a probable cost opinion of $14,928,750.
Almost $15 million just for the streams.
Right, and interestingly, improvements just within Basin 630, Dewey's Creek, accounted for over 30% of that total. And Basin 665, Swans Creek, with those severe problems, accounted for over 20%. So just two basins made up half the cost.
Concentrated problems. What was the most expensive single project?
The single most expensive project listed was a restoration of over 8,000 feet. That's over 1.5 miles of open channel along Reach 650A, targeting ongoing channel incision and widening in Middle Little Creek.
Okay. And the stormwater basin retrofits, how much for those?
The 16 proposed stormwater basin retrofits were significantly less expensive overall, with a combined probable cost opinion of $773,483.
Under $1 million for the basins.
Correct. So the combined total for both stream channel and stormwater basin projects comes to that $15,702,233. A significant investment, absolutely, but one aimed squarely at restoring long-term environmental health, protecting property, and ensuring public safety within the watershed.
We've certainly journeyed deep into the Quantico Creek watershed today. We've uncovered its unique geological story, the profound impacts of human history and really rapid development, and the meticulous assessment that pinpointed its ailing areas. From those dramatically eroding stream banks threatening homes to the stormwater basins that were struggling to filter pollution, we've truly seen the challenges firsthand through this report.
But we've also heard the comprehensive recommendations laid out,
Hmm.
from those grand-scale channel restorations involving heavy machinery to the sophisticated stormwater retrofits, and importantly, the community-driven education and crucial riparian buffer protection, all designed, hopefully, to bring this vital waterway back to health.
This deep dive into the Quantico Creek watershed, it really shows us, I think, that every stream, every local natural system tells a story about its past, its present, and potentially its future. So maybe the final thought for you listening is, what hidden stories of health and challenge might be flowing through the waterways in your own community right now, waiting to be understood and maybe acted upon?
Hmm.
How might appreciating these local ecosystems, really seeing them, change how you think about development and natural preservation right where you live?